Let's begin. For this tutorial, the materials you will need, well, the whole purpose of this pattern was to make use of leftover yarn, and that's exactly what I will be using, leftover yarn. Now here you see I have double knit, which is light worsted category 3, or you could use a 4-ply yarn. Now I'm using acrylic, and here I've made this little heart using double knit. That's my category 3 yarn. And on this side here, the red heart that you see here, that was made using a 4-ply acrylic. Now you'll see the only difference is that when you go down with your weights of yarn, the heart becomes smaller. Here it is. So the double knit or category 3 is much bigger than the 4-ply, but both weights will work perfectly fine with this pattern. So it's up to you, whatever you choose. You will then need your crochet hook, and I'm using a 3mm crochet hook. You'll need a yarn or a wool needle, a pair of scissors, and then you will need stuffing as well if you plan on stuffing this little heart. You could get away with using leftover yarn as stuffing as well, so that if you don't have any stuffing, don't worry, there's no need to go out and get some. Just stuff your little heart with leftover yarn. Let's begin with this tutorial. Form a slip knot. Chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Round 1 into the second chain from the hook, single crochet. To single crochet, it's insert your hook into the second chain. Here's the first one, and that's the second one. Into that second chain, I'll insert the hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through 2 loops on the hook. Then it's into the next chain, single crochet. So I'll insert the hook into that next chain, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through both the loops on the hook. And throughout this pattern, we'll be working using single crochets. Round 2, chain 1 and turn. Now chain 1 never counts as a stitch for this pattern. It's just a turning chain. You will never work your stitches into that chain 1. And when you look at the stitches, you'll see that there's 2 loops that make up a stitch. Here's one and here's the other. So the loop that's closest to you, it will be this one. That's your front loop, and the one that's further away from you right here, that's your back loop. So for this pattern, we'll be working all our stitches into those back loops. So continuing on with round 2, I've chained 1 and turned. Into that first single crochet, the first stitch, I'll work 2 single crochets. So here I am working 2 stitches into 1 stitch. So that was 2 single crochets into that first stitch, and then into the second stitch, work 2 single crochets. Again, it's 2 stitches into the 1 stitch. At the end of round 2, you should have 4 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Round 3, chain 1 and turn. Into the first stitch, work 2 single crochets. That's 1, 2. Into the next 2 stitches, work 1 single crochet each. So that's 1 into the first stitch and 1 into the next stitch. into the last stitch, work 2 single crochets. It's 1 and 2. So at the end of round 3 you should have 6 stitches. Round 4, chain 1 and turn. Into the first stitch, work 2 single crochets. That's 1, 2. Into the next 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, work 1 single crochet each. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. Into the last stitch, work 2 single crochets. So that's 1, 2. At the end of round 4 you should have 8 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Round 5, chain 1 and turn. Into the first stitch, work 2 single crochets. That's 1, 2. Into the next 6 stitches, work 1 single crochet each. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Into the last stitch, work 2 single crochets. So that's 1, 2. At the end of round 5 you should have 10 stitches. Round 6, chain 1 and turn. Into the first stitch, work 2 single crochets. So that's 1, 2. Into the next 8 stitches, work 1 single crochet each. So that's 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Into the last stitch, work 2 single crochets. So that's 1, 2. At the end of round 6 you should have 12 stitches. Round 7, chain 1 and turn. Now at this point we'll be forming that first upper part of the heart where it curves here. Into the next 6 stitches, work 1 single crochet each. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now you'll see that you have 6 stitches remaining for round 6. So at the bottom here, if you count your stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that's fine. We've already worked up 6 stitches for round 7. Round 8, turn. So you've noticed that I haven't worked a chain 1, I've just turned. So for round 8 you'll skip that first stitch, and into the next stitch you'll work your single crochet. Then you'll continue with single crochets to the end of the round. So that's 4 more single crochets, 1 into each stitch. In total for this round I've worked 5 single crochets. round 9, turn, skip that first stitch, and into the next 4 stitches work 1 single crochet each. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we've completed the first portion of the upper heart. We now need to get back down to the center here, to this little notch at the center of the heart. So to do so, we need to work slip stitches. Now you may need to work 2 or 3 slip stitches. I find that when you're working with a double knit category 3 yarn, you generally will work 3 slip stitches to get to the bottom. But with the 4 ply, which I'm using here, I need to work 2 slip stitches to get to that bottom here. So there are no stitches to work with along this edge. You will have to work your slip stitches into these little gaps that you see along the way. So to work a slip stitch, you'll insert your hook into a little gap, pull up a loop. Now you have 2 loops on your hook. You'll take that first loop and pull it through the second loop, and that was a slip stitch. And then right at the center of the notch is where I'll work my second one. And if you're using double knit or category 3, you'll work 3 slip stitches. So here goes with my second one, because I'm using a 4 ply, and that's it. So that was the slip stitches marked off the beginning of round 10. So we've worked our slip stitches, and we're back onto round 6 here at the bottom. Then into the next 6 stitches along this row here, you work 6 single crochets. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Round 11, turn. You'll notice that we're not working a chain 1. You'll skip that first stitch. Into the next 5 stitches, work 5 single crochets. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Round 12, turn, skip the first stitch. Into the next 4 stitches, work 4 single crochets. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. And round 12 marks the completion of this little heart. So now you'll decide whether you'd like to leave it as it is. You could pull up a loop like so and have a little loop there, and it forms a nice little ornament, maybe for a Christmas tree or so. If you choose to leave it like so, you'll need to cut it off right at this point. Let me show you. So here I have the other one that I've worked, and I plan on leaving this as it is. So here's my little loop. I'll leave that, and this is where I'm cutting off. Now then you'll weave in all these ends. You'll weave in all these ends with your yarn needle. So to weave in the ends, you're just going to go into your stitches. You go back and forth into your stitches to sort of lose this length of yarn, this tail end of yarn. Try to go sort of zigzag around just to get that tail end completely lost in there. And you can cut off this excess And you'll do the same with this little bit here as well to complete this. Now, if you plan on stuffing this little heart, you'll go ahead and cut off at this point here. So that's it. Now you'll need to make 2 of these to stuff it. You'll need a length of yarn in order to seam all around and also form a little loop at the top edge of the heart. So you place the 2 hearts together and get in all these tail ends. Get them on the inside, in between the 2 hearts. So you sort of hiding them in there. And then with your yarn needle, you can go ahead, start off at this little notch here. And you'll seam all the way around to the other side. So you'll seam all this way around to the other side. You will stop short of this little notch. So you'll have a little sort of gap where you can stuff the little heart. So I've gone ahead and stitched all the way around this little heart, and I've also managed to stick in my tail ends into this inside of the heart as I worked my way around. Now I've left that top portion unstitched, and this is where you go ahead and take your stuffing. Like I said, you don't really need stuffing. Stuffing's not a must for this tutorial. You can fill it up using leftover yarn as well. It just depends. If you do have stuffing, by all means go ahead and use that. But if you don't, go ahead and stuff it with leftover yarn as well. Now I've completely stuffed this little heart, so I'll go ahead and seam along this top edge to close up on this heart. Now I'm at this little notch at the bottom, and I do want to form a little loop here. So you could form it using your yarn as well by just knotting it through like so, and that will be fine. But I'd like to single crochet, chain a length of yarn. So here goes. I've brought in my hook, and I'll just work a length of chains. That was 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. And I think that should be fine. Let me just have a look. Okay, let's make it a tiny bit longer. 23, 24, 25. Okay, so that's fine. Once I've got that, I'll take my hook back in through, and I will just fasten it all together. Let's try that again. Take my hook back in, pull up a loop, and slip stitch into that first. Go ahead and pull it all through. You can fasten off So there you have it. And as for this little tail end, with your yarn needle, you can just lose it in the heart. I think that I went and overstuffed it here, but that's not a problem. I'll just bring it together. And that does it. Here you have a little heart. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Thank you for watching.